Microlecture 21: The Emergence of the Working Class. The first spaces where industrial labor developed were cotton mills. In these factories, workers faced new conditions like keeping up with the machines and following their tempo. They also had to show up on time every day and work long and monotonous hours under demanding overseers' supervision. With the opening of more textile factories in urban areas and the popularization of steam power rather than water power, the need for a new workforce grew. People from the countryside moved into the cities to work. The name that was collectively assigned to these wage laborers was the working class, a term first used in the late 1830s. At the beginning, in many of these new factories, people worked with their families and the owners often negotiated with the head of the family for the labor of the whole household. Ties of kinship were particularly crucial for the newcomers, who often came from places far away from big industrial cities. By the mid-19th century, technical changes made it less likely that workers could continue to labor in family groups. The overseers were often violent with women and children, and the men began to complain. As a consequence of the protest, legislators and owners began to discuss more human conditions. For example, the British Parliament enacted the Factory Act of 1833 that stated children between 9 and 13 could only work a maximum of 8 hours. With fewer children working and having men as the family's primary wage earner, a sexual division of labor emerged. This sexual division limited women's job opportunities, and the expectation was that they needed to concentrate on their duties at home. This division is one of the most significant developments in the history of women and family. Several factors contribute to the sexual division of labor. First, factory discipline interfered with child care. Second, taking care of the household was, in itself, a very demanding task. Third, the single women who could work were often segregated to specific spaces and certain types of jobs. Most living conditions for working-class laborers did not improve substantially until 1850. Factory salaries rose after 1815, but the gains were modest and were offset by a decline in married women's and children's participation in the labor force. The increase in industry productivity did not lead to a rise in the British working class's purchasing power. Only after salaries went up between 1850 and 1870, the benefits of being a wage laborer began to be notorious for people. With higher wages, matters improved considerably. More foods became available. Public health was also substantially enhanced. Smallpox vaccination became routine, and surgeons began to use anesthesia. Another thing that improved the life of the workers was the telegraph. Instant communication was now a possibility, and many new industrial workers could communicate with their families. Industrial development led to the creation of new social groups and intensified long-standing problems between capital and labor. A new class of factory owners and industrial capitalists arose. The demands of the industrial world generated conflicts between the factory's owners and the people who work for them. From the very beginning, the Industrial Revolution had many critics. Intellectuals like Malthus, Ricardo, Marx, and Engels began to denounce capitalist exploitation and how workers would eventually earn only enough to survive. The analysis of industrial capitalism led to new interpretations of the social world. In this new understanding of society, it became evident that individuals were members of separate classes based on their relationships to the means of production. Machines, factories, capital, and land were in the hands of a few people, while the masses only had as their capital their work. People began to identify culturally, symbolically, and economically with a specific sector of society. This awareness of people's place in society is what later was defined as class consciousness. Slowly, working-class solidarity and class consciousness developed in small workshops as well as in large factories. Anti-capitalist sentiments emerged and the first unions were formed. The rise of the modern industry had a profound impact on society. Industrialization led to more wealth, the rise of the middle classes, and the emergence of the industrial working class. Rigid rules, stern discipline, and long hours weighed heavily on factory workers, and improvements in the standards of living came slowly. This is all I have for you today. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.